Hi, I'm Walter, and it is Tuesday, August 13th, and my favorite time of the month, Microsoft Patch Tuesday, is here again. This month, Microsoft is releasing 8 bulletins that address a total of 23 different CVEs. We'll start with the first bulletin that affects Internet Explorer. This is MS13-059. It is the IE Cumulative Update. This addresses 11 different CVEs. They span elevation of privilege, cross-site scripting, and arbitrary code execution. 9 of those CVEs are rated critical, 2 of those are rated moderate. The bulletin overall carries a critical rating. It's critical for all IE versions, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. This is definitely on your Patch Now list for this month. There's a pretty good chance that we might see exploit code developed for this, especially for older versions of software. There are IPS signatures available for most of the vulnerabilities. We'll move right along here to 6 bulletins that are affecting Windows. The first one, MS13-060. This is the Unicode bulletin, addresses 1 vulnerability. Bulletin carries a critical rating. This is also on your Patch Now list. The vulnerability could allow for remote code execution. The vulnerability itself is in the Unicode scripts processor, which is a Windows component and can be used by both Microsoft and third-party software. The attacker is only going to have to get a victim to view a specially crafted document or web page in an application that supports embedded OpenType fonts. So here's a good thing. Don't open documents, especially when from unsuspecting sources or from untrusted shares. Right? It's just a good security measure there. There is an IPS signature available for this one. The next one, MS13-062. This is the RPC bulletin. 1 vulnerability. Overall, the bulletin carries an important rating. This one could allow for an elevation of privilege. In order to exploit this, an attacker would need to make malformed RPC requests to a shared host. There is not an IPS signature available for this one. MS13-063, this is the kernel bulletin, addresses 4 vulnerabilities. Overall, the bulletin carries an important rating. The CVE 2013-2556, this is the ASLR security feature vulnerability. It has been publicly disclosed. It is a security bypass vulnerability. The other 3 CVEs are kernel memory corruption vulnerabilities. They could allow for elevation of privilege. There are not IPS signatures available for this because they're, in essence, local vulnerabilities. The next one, MS13-064, this is the NAT driver bulletin, addresses 1 important rated CVE. Overall, the bulletin carries an important rating. This is a denial of service vulnerability in the latest versions of software. Attacker could simply send a specially crafted ICMP packet to the server in order to exploit the vulnerability, and that denial of service could make the system stop responding until it was restarted. There is an IPS signature available for this one. Next one, MS13-065. This is the ICMP v6 bulletin. Also 1 important rated CVE. Overall, the bulletin carries an important rating. Again, a denial of service vulnerability. Here, the attacker sends specially crafted ICMP packets at the target. This is ICMP. It is a different bulletin than MS13-064, right? So MS13-064 and -065 are 2 different bulletins. They're not related. For MS13-064, there is an IPS signature. For MS13-065, there is not an IPS signature. All right, moving right along, we've got MS13-066. This is the Active Directory bulletin, addresses 1 vulnerability. Overall, the bulletin carries an important rating. It is an information disclosure vulnerability. There's a potential here for an attacker to reveal information about the service account used by the Active Directory Federation service, which if you took that information outside a corporate network, you could then attempt to log in and potentially lock out that service account. There is not an IPS signature available for this bulletin. All right, and finally, we've got 1 bulletin that affects Exchange Server. This is MS13-061, addresses 3 critically rated CVEs. Overall, the bulletin carries a critical rating. The vulnerabilities themselves have been publicly disclosed. However, exploit code for them are probably going to be difficult to build. The vulnerabilities themselves are in third-party software. Specifically, they're the Oracle outside-in libraries. The vulnerabilities themselves were discussed in the July and April patch advisories from Oracle. So, what do the Oracle outside-in libraries do? Well, in a nutshell, they allow the user to view certain attachments in a web page instead of the local application that supports them. So an attacker basically needs to send a crafted email to somebody who would open that attachment and view it as a web page instead of in the local application tool, and that could allow for exploitation. All right, that rounds out August. Check out the event response page. There we list pretty much all the vulnerabilities, affected software, and mitigations available in sort of a one-stop shop, quick reference. Also look at the applied mitigation bulletins, especially if you're using Cisco products. In addition to IPS, you may have additional ways to mitigate possibilities of attack. That does it for August, and we'll see you next month.